Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. We understand that this is the final session of the day, so we'll try and make it as interesting as we possibly can. I'm joined here today by, we're missing, oh, I was looking for Tony, and I realized he was already at the podium. Just a quick word of introduction. First of all, my name is j.mcbrien, and I represent Enterprise Ireland. We're the Irish government agency that has responsibility for supporting the development of technology and trade from Ireland across the world. We work with companies who have really something special to offer that will allow them to build a sustainable global business. And that will allow them to form successful partnerships worldwide, which in turn will help us to create jobs and will result in prosperity, increased prosperity for everybody. So we work with companies right from the startup phase, where we help them to develop their ideas into mature products and services. But we continue to work with them until they're global players with very, very mature products in mature markets. One of the areas we're very, very active in is the whole area of startups. And we do understand that for startups, one of the biggest challenges is when they do come up with innovative ideas, the financing of those ideas to get them beyond the prototype or sample stage and to get them into mature products is quite a delicate phase. So our agency is also responsible for helping the companies find seed financing and helping them to get over the first couple of steps. In fact, we ourselves as an entity are a significant venture capital company in our own right, and we do take investment stakes in companies in Ireland ourselves. We opened our first office in Turkey just this year in January. Some would say that we were late in doing it. I think it was absolutely time that we needed to be here. We have run a number of trade missions into Turkey over the last couple of years, and we've really seen a growing interest in collaboration with Turkish companies. I think that this collaboration and this level of intervention between the two countries is going to increase. So it was very important for us to be here. And then the reason why we're here tonight, well, as a partner company with Team, we were asked to identify some companies who would maybe represent the innovation that's coming out of Ireland. Not an easy task, and we were really challenged with trying to think, okay, what companies would really represent us well? So we're very, very proud with the 4 companies that we have here today, representing a wide spectrum of sectors from software through to engineering, through to healthcare. So without going into any great detail about the companies, I think they're in a much better position to explain to you themselves what they do. So if I can start off with introducing Tony Murphy, the CEO of Daon. Tony.
Thanks very much, John. Sorry. I need this, I think. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Murphy, and I'm CEO of the Daon Group and Managing Director of one of our businesses. That particular business is Daon Solutions. And what I'm going to speak to you today about is a little bit on our innovation process, which is behind our engine of growth, and in particular to focus on the lessons learned of having carried out a number of innovation sessions in our group on an annual basis across the regions. I'll be coming back to some of the other businesses outlined in the group towards the end of the presentation also. So before you start to innovate, you need to determine your strategy and where it is that you want to play. Do you want to further innovation in the core business that you operate in today, or do you want to move into adjacent markets with perhaps complementary products, or are you looking for something transformational to totally diversify your business and diversify your customer base? And I'm happy to say that we've been active across all of these 3 segments over the years. And so our strategy is to pursue innovation through the three areas, and one of the key outcomes out of it is that we never have any shortage in identifying ideas. The great challenge is identifying great ideas from a good pipeline of ideas that are generated, and you need a process to govern this Darwinian evolution. This diagram here, which I won't dwell on too long, but I'll pick a couple of points just to highlight, in particular, our innovation process. And we run specific regional campaigns on innovation on an annual basis, and getting into the habit of creating and socializing ideas is something that we're getting better at. On the other hand, it can be difficult to validate ideas via market interest, and in particular to identify the customer value. But it must be attempted because without a buying market, no matter how bright or how great the innovation is, it may turn out to be a failure. So it's extremely important to get the market validation on target, and it's one of the areas I would say that we struggle most with. Moving on to some of the lessons learned, I would say that obviously the transformational ideas are much harder to identify. Having said that, there are key examples of it, and I'll speak to one of those in a moment, where we did identify a transformational idea that went on to be the seed for a new business. We're much better and more comfortable assessing technical feasibility of any of the ideas, but less assured on market feasibility. And to assist us on the market feasibility, we will regularly call on perhaps third-party investigation services to go out into the market and to speak to new customer bases, and to validate through customer feedback, potential customer feedback, the value that we are attempting to generate. It's very important to, once you build and achieve internal momentum, to sustain it. And as you go through the various gateway processes in the validation, it's very important to have an honest and robust gateway process to review the progress that's been achieved, whether that's from a technical or a commercial, or from a legal, or from a policy, or from a privacy perspective. It's important to run it through and to be seen to run through these activities through the gateway process. It's also very important to once you obtain, let's say, potential customer interest, to accelerate the activities quickly when this is evident, and to build on that. And it can be an important driver of sustaining the momentum throughout your innovation process. What we have learned over a period of time is that developing a sense of curiosity is essential for spurring on innovation. And if you can combine that with empathy, I guess one of the companies that does innovation through empathy best is probably Apple. It's not not necessarily on the technology, but they have an empathy for seeing the world through a different set of lenses and being able to approach it from those lenses and see how they can help bring convenience to the customer, to the end customer. Is simplicity and convenience to the end customer is something that they've done very well. It's something that we as an organisation are striving for. I also think that it's probably something that in Western Europe that we're probably weaker at. We're much more comfortable in our zone and the technology, but we've been trying to break out of that and address it with a deeper understanding of how to help our customers. It's a more difficult process. One of the innovations that, and certainly a business that wasn't part of our 2014 business plan, it's called Proof of Life and Proof of Entitlement. I remember being presenting to one of the major banks in the world, perhaps about 12, 13 months ago, and talking about our capabilities and so forth. And they were quite impressed. And then they turned and says, but if you can help us solve proof of life, that's the elephant in the room. And it's great when you get that nugget from, let's say one of the most prestigious financial institutions in the world. So I guess off we went with that nugget and started to brainstorm and looked at various concepts as to how we could formulate a solution that would be robust to provide proof of life to these organizations, whether they're governments or whether they're financial institutions that provide benefits and other services to their customer base. So in speaking to proof of life, in almost every country across the world, billions of dollars are being dispersed on a monthly basis for pensions and benefits distribution. And one of the key trends that's happening is that the vast majority of agencies are now automating recurring payments to electronic transfer funds. And so whilst this brings great benefits in terms of the eliminating cash payments out of the system, it does actually increase the level of fraud, potentially increase the level of fraud in the disbursement of those funds. So you can imagine that even a tiny percentage of fraud, when you've got billions of dollars of funds being dispersed on a monthly basis, can amount to a very large amount of money. So that's kind of I suppose, the scope or the size of the problem that we were trying to deal with. So we came up with a solution that leverages our existing technology, that also leverages some other innovations that we have developed over the years to provide a multimodal solution. So multimodal in the sense of that it could involve the use of voice or face, excuse me, or iris or fingerprint, and combining these to provide biometric fusion to provide an increased accuracy of the authentication results. And by providing these capabilities, it provides business process flexibility in the context of the end user selecting the right biometric for the right context. Multi-channel in that it's PC or web or mobile app or telephone-based. So there's a variety of, wide variety of channels that can concurrently service a population. It's multi-vendor in terms of its you know, it could be different vendors for fingerprint or facial biometrics or other identification technologies. And finally, it's an open technology platform that is capable of servicing multiple tenants, multiple customers for a variety of different use cases. So if it was, for example, a government customer that might use it for benefits distribution, but also use it for disbursement of pensions, it would be very valuable and one that is highly scalable and flexible, and one that can be interoperable with third-party payment systems. I mentioned a moment ago about sustaining momentum and being able to leverage customer bases, your customers across the world. And whilst we were developing this capability of proof of life, we were at the same time speaking in the market to customers for this capability in Latin America, in Australia, in Italy, in the UK. And we took this capability as an innovation through the whole process, got board approval to launch with it, and now we're in the final stages, I would say, of a market launch that we would hit the street running with it, formally speaking, in January 2015. I started off with this slide, and as I say, I'm the Managing Director of Deon Solutions. One of the outcomes of our innovation session sometime, well, over 4 years ago, was an idea called, an innovation called Identity X. So Identity X effectively is taken the proven technology that we have delivered to customers around the world, ranging from the United States to Mexico to the EU to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, to mention a few, and using that proven capability to deliver the highest level of authentication using smart devices, using tablets, and so as to secure your digital lifestyle. So this is a technology today that is being pioneered, I'd say, in its usage by some of the leading banks and credit card companies, but also people that are involved in asset management. So Identity X has got is a standalone business now with its own P&L, with significant resources established to it. The technology that was developed, leveraging the Deon Solutions capabilities, was developed in Dublin, Ireland. But that business, Identity X, operates primarily out of the United States now. And more recently, in say the end of 2013, the beginning of 2014, we launched a new capability, which I would place, let's say, in the adjacent space of innovation. It's called TrustX. So it's basically a cloud-based authentication, cloud-based identity services or authentication services that's built on the Identity X platform. And there are some of the leading banks that are actually trialing this technology as we speak today. That concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions.
If there are no questions from the floor at the moment, Tony, we might enter into a question or two afterwards once we finish the round, if that's okay.
Yep.
So thank you very much. So I'd like to move on to something very different. You know, from biometric software, we're going to move into the area of healthcare. And I'm very happy to present to you Novaris. And j.mcbrien is going to talk to us a little bit about Novaris. Novaris have developed the world's first and only effective plasma air sterilization technology. Plasma is used already in a lot of surgical procedures. For example, as sterilizing surgical equipment, etc. But Novaris have marked a breakthrough in succeeding to apply the technology to the actual air we breathe. So Kieran, if you'd like to tell us a bit more about that.
John. Thank you. I don't actually have to move over here, I don't think, do I? Can you hear me? Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, John. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. It's great to be here. Being quite an old person, cries if you don't look it, I know, but being quite an old person, I've been in business quite a long time and been in many, many sectors. But I have to say, without exception, this is, by a country mile, the most exciting technology I have ever been involved with, because it's about life and death, or more specifically, about preventing death and extending life. You see there on the slide, it says the future of infection control. Now, what does that actually mean in real terms? These are very sensitive matters. So let's look briefly at a country with which Turkey has an association, but it's a third country. Let's look at the Federal Republic of Germany, which I happen to know quite well because I live there. A leading country, first world country, one of the 5 largest economies in the world, first-class healthcare system. According to the German Association for Hospital Hygiene, 1 million people every year in Germany acquire an infection in a healthcare institution. 1 million. And of those 1 million, 40,000 die. 40,000 die. That's 40,000 families every year are hit by a death because of an infection acquired in a hospital. Now, this is according to the German Association of Hospital Hygiene. Now, to put that in perspective, how many people die on German roads every year? 30,000? 50,000? 10,000? 20,000? In 2013, the figure was 3,337. So less than 10% of the number who died in hospitals. That, to me, is a shocking statistic. And I'm not necessarily getting at the Germans or the German healthcare system. These figures are reproduced, more or less, right across Europe and other parts of the world. And the reason is that infection control has not seen very much in the way of breakthrough in the last 100 years, in fact. So let's talk about infection control. If I can move this on, persuade it to move. Infection is in the air. Pathogens, bacteria, and viruses are in the air. And up to now, there has not been an effective method of treating the air. Aerial dissemination actually never stops in a healthcare institution. You change the beds. It sounds a very simple thing to do. You change the beds, you put thousands, millions of bacteria and viruses into the air, which have been in the bed clothing from people's skin cells. People shed skin cells at the rate of 30,000 per hour. These are in the bed clothes. You change the bed, they're in the air. You vacuum the floor, you put them into the air. You move the curtains, you put them into the air. Bacteria and viruses are in the air. Novaris thinks a bit differently about infections. The traditional methods, which are valid and good, and the traditional protocols work well to a certain point, they're about wiping surfaces and washing hands. People are using stronger chemicals every year. They're pursuing another percentage of a decimal point reduction in infections. Yet infections are increasing. Antibiotics are developing resistance, bacteria are developing resistance to antibiotics. The problem is growing, and there's a severe case of having reached the point of diminishing returns with infection. We talk about closing the infection control loop in Novaris. Bacterial and viral pathogens are in the air. They're carried in the air on skin cells, on desiccated particles. We cough, we sneeze, we expel droplets. Latest research shows these droplets actually dry in the air, and the dried out particles can carry a much higher charge than the original droplets. They get onto the surface, infectious dust settles out of the air, onto surfaces, creates contact points for hands. And this part of the loop, there is no current technology which actually can deal with it. A couple of examples, and I'll not dwell too long on these. Let's take a few typical infectious conditions in healthcare facilities. Influenza, norovirus, Clostridium difficile, and MRSA. Latest research from some of the world's leading and most prestigious medical institutions have shown conclusively that these infections are transmitted via the air. Now, this is for many hygiene people, many people who do a great job in hospitals in traditional ways. This is a complete paradigm shift. This is something they find difficult to deal with. But more and more research is showing this to be true. Influenza research, Harvard University, 89% of influenza virus-carrying particles can stay in the air almost indefinitely. They can float around healthcare institutions, hospitals on air currents, and are almost infinitely infectious. And these smaller particles that I spoke of, Harvard found they were also almost 9 times more infectious than larger droplets that are expectorated. And healthcare workers throughout an institution are exposed. Norovirus, a very infectious viral disease which causes vomiting, diarrhea, dangerous for elderly or immune-compromised patients, also now conclusively proved, in contrast to what people believed until last year, transmitted by the air. You can walk through a room. You can walk through a room once where somebody has vomited because of norovirus and you can become infected. That's how infectious this disease is, and you can fit 50 million of the little devils onto the head of a pin. Clostridium difficile, bacterial spore-based infection, also very dangerous in situations where people are immune-suppressed, elderly. Conclusive proof now from a study from 2011 in the University of Leeds where they DNA tracked spores across a ward. This transfers by the air. MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which is not easy to say after a couple of drinks, or easy to say when you're on a stage like this. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, one of a new series of bacteria which have developed resistance to antibiotics and ever more rife in healthcare institutions. There are other ones as well. Till very recently believed also to be transferred only via contact. But more and more studies, and this study here is a study from Dublin in Ireland, from Beaumont Hospital, which has actually been closed several times because of MRSA problems. And this was published in the Journal of Hospital Infection in January of this year. They did a lot of samples around the hospital. 25% of the air samples in the high dependency units had live, culturable MRSA in the air. It was there in the air live. And even more interestingly, 8% of the locations where there had never, ever, ever been an MRSA patient, they also found MRSA in the air. It's in the air. Interesting picture, Clostridium difficile. This is a picture of a typical bedside cabinet you might see in your hospital. All these lovely spores residing there, highly infectious. You can imagine what happens to those when someone comes along and swipes them. They get into the air and they float around. And you have a 50% higher chance of getting Clostridium if you've been in a room where someone's had it before you, even if it's been terminally cleaned. People say, is there a link to infection rates? Because this science is actually all very new. But there are studies, an increasing number of studies, which show infectious particles in the air do transfer to an increase, and a significant increase in infections that people get in healthcare institutions. So what do we do about it? Novaris Well, we try to boil it down because I'm a very simple person. I can never remember a list that has more than 3 things in it. So this list has 3 things in it, and let's see if I can remember those. We do 3 things. We control the spread of airborne infection. We kill the stuff in the air. And by taking it out of the air, we come to the second point. We clean up the general environment because there's now much, much less stuff on the surfaces, on the clothes, on the hands, on the door handles. So we're making the job of the normal hygiene protocols a lot easier. And finally, as a wonderful side benefit, Noveris kills nasty smells. Nasty, horrible odors we get rid of. Because most odors that you associate with people, it's not a pleasant subject, but some people do smell, and some things that the body produces do smell. It's a fact of life. Those smells are caused by decaying bacteria in the air. We kill the bacteria, we kill the smell. As a further bonus, we also break up a wide range of what's called volatile organic compounds. Those are compounds, carbon-based compounds, which are present in a wide range of modern products. They aerosolize, they become gaseous at room temperature. They're present everywhere at very high levels, and they are implicated in causing a wide range of respiratory problems, particularly in children. So we get rid of all of those. Plasma is what our technology is based on. John referred to it. Plasma, at its basic level, is actually very simple. It's the 4th state of matter. You apply energy to a solid, it becomes a liquid. You apply energy to a liquid, it becomes a gas. You apply energy to a gas, it becomes plasma. In this case, we've developed, and that's our breakthrough, a very low-power plasma. We pass air with a big fan, goes round and round and round. It sucks air through the machine. The machine passes through the plasma field, and the instant it passes through the plasma field, it is sterilized in that instant. Such is the power of plasma. It's extremely destructive. And that's why it's so effective. I won't dwell a lot on this, but there are several very destructive processes go on simultaneously inside plasma. Physical effects, chemical effects. We stretch the bacteria, we bombard it with electrons. There are little UV photons produced which irradiate the DNA. Chemical effects are produced to oxidate it. It's, in short, an extremely violent environment for a tiny little bacteria or virus to be exposed to. And all of these things happen millions of times per second. We're linked in, and we talked a lot here about innovation. We're linked in with some of the leading research and development institutions in the world. The National Centre for Plasma, I'm going to wave a flag here for Ireland, the National Centre for Plasma Science and Technology in Ireland, in Dublin, is one of the 3 largest plasma research institutes in the world. There's one in Michigan and one in Japan, but the one that we have in Dublin is rated in the top 3 on the entire planet. Dublin City University, Ireland's leading technology university, we work closely with them. The University of Huddersfield in the UK has developed into a leading centre of microbiological research in that country. The NASA, the National Aeronautic and Space Association Administration in the USA, I'll come back to them in a moment. We have a close relationship with them, as we have with the University Space Research Association in California and Stanford University as well. Now, I spoke for a moment about NASA. And what I'm going to tell you now is going to sound completely barmy, but NASA are actually very worried about air quality, and they're worried about air quality in the context of manned spaceflight. They're looking at the spaceflight to Mars in 2025. They don't want to take any bugs to Mars, and they certainly don't want to bring any bugs back from Mars. So they've been conducting, as banal as that sounds, they've been conducting significant research into this issue for a number of years now, and we've just concluded a 12-month cooperative study with them where they took our technology and they applied it to aerosolized E. coli. They took E. coli, which is a very robust bacteria, and because of its rod-like form, easy to see. And what you see here in these 2 pictures are pictures that they took of comparative technologies. On the left, you see traditional heat sterilization for 2 hours. On the right, you see ozone sterilization. These are 2 traditional methods used in healthcare institutions today for sterilization. Now, both these E. coli bugs are apparently dead, but we don't know what's happened inside. We don't know has the DNA been destroyed or what actually the situation is with them. If you see here now real-time sterilization with plasma, again on the left we have the heat sterilization for 2 hours. On the right, plasma after 0.001 not 2 seconds. And this bright area in the middle, you can see illuminated with fluoroscopy, is actually dead. That's the DNA in the middle, it's destroyed. That's the power of plasma. The plasma is uniquely destructive to all genetic material, and that is the real kind of wonderful thing about it. We destroy the DNA. So theoretically, bacteria cannot develop resistance to our plasma. Here you see the E. coli bacteria having passed through the plasma just once. It's been destroyed. So as a result of all this, we're publishing a paper with NASA, NASA are publishing the paper in the American Journal of Hospital Infection early next year. And these are pretty conclusive statements from scientists. Scientists normally say the research shows that we need more research, and the next research shows that we need more research. These are very conclusive statements. It went one stage further. NASA took the technology to Stanford. And what this is a device called a synchrotron. And they told us, well, we're taking it to the synchrotron. And we thought, that's great. The synchrotron, is it a big photocopier or what is it? Turns out the synchrotron is a first-generation particle collider. This is $1 billion worth of equipment on a campus in Stanford. You cannot buy time on it. You have to be recommended, and your recommendation has to be on the basis of advancement of science. So NASA took it to Stanford. Stanford have put it through and analyzed the effects of bacteria under the synchrotron, and they're publishing a theoretical paper on our plasma in the American Journal of Plasma Physics next year. And another very interesting side result has come out of that, which I'll come on to in a moment. Oh, wrong one. Okay, sorry. We've been tested on all the major bacterial groups. We've been tested on all the viral groups. We kill all bacteria, we kill all viruses, and we kill them in the air. We kill them very, very quickly. Not dwell on this. The speed of the kill is actually what's really important with Noveris. I've had a pointer in this. We kill bacteria at a very, very high rate. That's why it's so effective in the real world. Some real world results. A 6-year study we'll be publishing next year in Leopardstown in Dublin. This shows reduction of staff costs over 2 years in the study. We reduced staff sickness by simply installing the technology in Ward 1, shown by the blue line. After 12 months, the yellow and green lines show where we installed the technology in 2 further wards. Staff sickness reduced by 80% in one ward, 50% in 2 other wards. Infectious outbreaks reduced to 0. Antibiotic use gone down. Staff and patient welfare vastly increased. 2010 in the UK, a major study in a major UK teaching hospital looking at the incidence of MRSA. We reduced outbreaks there by 97%. Dialysis clinic research done with the largest dialysis clinic dialysis company in the world. Major reductions in the biological bacterial counts over a 3-month period. Surgical Rehabilitation Center in the USA. Hospital-acquired infections down 56%. Respiratory infections through the entire institution, 12 months on 12 months, down 75%. Long-term care facility, also in Florida, hospital-acquired infections, 3 months over 3 months, down 53%. These figures are unparalleled. You cannot achieve these figures with any kind of traditional hygiene control, infection control. People say to us, well, where do you start in the hospital? Where do you start? Because this sounds so fantastic. Should you put it in everywhere? And we say no. Concentrate first where the high risk is, at the top of this pyramid. Your ICUs, your isolation rooms, your dialysis units, your oncology units, where there's a high risk. And at a second level there, here in the middle, the yellow band, because of our effect on odors, every hospital ward has what they call a dirty room, or a sluice room, where all the bedpans, the dirty laundry comes. Every nurse goes in and out of that room 4 or 5 times a day. That's a huge source of infection and a huge source of unpleasantness from the staff. We kill the odors in those rooms, and we reduce the infection coming out of those as well. Innovation, innovation, innovation. That's what today's all about. We're putting one more on top of this whole thing next year. We're bringing out a sensor and a cloud-based system which will allow hospitals to monitor air quality throughout the institution in real time and send it to the cloud on an app. And that will involve both monitoring VOCs, volatile organic compounds, organic matter in the air, and a real breakthrough, which I referred to recently, or a moment ago with Stanford. It turns out that under plasma, different bacteria and different families of bacteria emit different light signatures. So if we can turn that, and that's what we started to do, we think we're about 12 months away from that, we should be able to show bacteria in the air in real time, which is currently not possible. If you want to measure bacteria in there at the moment, the quickest you can do that is between 5 or 7 hours with the most modern air sampling equipment. We hope to be able to do that in real time. Based on this discovery we made with Stanford, bacteria under plasma gives off different light signatures. That's a very, very, very powerful piece of information if we can convert that into our overall sensor and app system. So, wrapping it all up, what does Noveris deliver? We reduce respiratory infections in healthcare facilities. Everywhere we put the equipment in, they fall. Antibiotic stewardship improves. People use less antibiotics. They're better because of that. Nosocomial hospital-acquired infections decline. Hospital readmission rates, which is a big issue in many countries. If you have to go back into hospital, many healthcare systems penalize you. And staff sickness declines. All of these add up to very, very significant savings for healthcare institutions. Noveris, apart from saving lives, and I guess everything always comes down to money, saves very, very significant sums of money for healthcare systems. People get sick less, staff get sick less. When staff get sick, they have to be replaced. That's a huge cost. Disposable use, for everything from sheets to blankets to syringes to nappies, declines. People are generally better. And it's complementary. People don't have to change a thing about what they do with current infection controls. It just gets put in. The machines run 24 hours a day. Infections fall. People are not sick. Lives are saved. And I'm very happy to announce that we're now kicking off in Turkey. We have appointed last month a distributor in Turkey, Biosis Biomedical, Cihazlari in Istanbul. And I'm very pleased to say that the CEO and main shareholder, Ms. Vidiha Turkan, is here today, and we're delighted to be working with her to bring the benefits of Noveris to Turkey. They've been a leading operator in the market since 1989, very successful with a wide range of leading European and US companies. We're delighted they've chosen to work with us. And I'm actually doing some training work with them tomorrow, and on Thursday we are actually installing the first trial devices in 2 hospitals in Istanbul. So it's really, really exciting. We see great opportunity in the Turkish market for this technology. And as I say, we are completely chuffed, to use a technical expression, that Vidiha and our team are going to be working with us. One last thought to leave you with. I've been talking all this stuff, and some of you might think it's hot air, no pun intended, because air is very kind of intangible. And that's one of the reasons we've developed our system, or we're developing this system to give us real-time data. But I'm always confronted with the situation, because, well, you know, is stuff really in the air? Is air that important? You know, do I have to really worry about the air? And being a simple sort of fellow, I like to bring things down to very simple kind of pictures. And I've often said to people, well, do you know what? As you can see here, if we had developed through an evolutionary trick or whatever as intelligent fish, and we're all living underneath the water, would I have to convince anyone, would I even have to try to convince anyone for a moment that clean water was important? I don't think so. Clean air is vital for good health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kieran. I don't know if I feel better because I feel protected now, or if I feel worse because I understand the level of danger that's out there. Fascinating story. Thank you very much. Our next story is also very fascinating, and it's a particularly attractive story because it's a great example of real innovative collaboration between an Irish company, Kel Stainless, and a Turkish company, Umde. Umde is represented here by Zia Gökçek. I hope I pronounced it okay. I've been practicing. Unfortunately, John McKeown from Kel Stainless couldn't make it today. But the company have been collaborating really since November 2011, I think, and have been looking for projects, bidding for projects across the UK, across Turkey, into the Middle East, etc. But the most interesting in this respect is that they've together developed a biomass system to convert biodegradable waste into high-grade fertilizers and nutrients. and on the other side into power generation. So it's a combination of Kel's technology and UMDE technology. And as I said, it's a fantastic example of how collaboration between a Turkish and an Irish company can be extremely successful for both sides. But once again, Zia, if you'd tell us a little more about it.
Yes. I will speak in Turkish if you don't mind. But now we are, this was all about innovation. So which do you prefer, Turkish or English? Turkish. Kels, İrlandalı ve çok özel paslanmaz çelikler yapan, çok özel ekipmanlar yapan, daha çok ilaç ve gıda sektörüne hizmet eden ve bu konuda çok şeylerini geliştiren bir firma. UMDE ise anahtar teslimi tesisler kuran gıda, ilaç, kimya tesis sanayilerinde 2 tane firma. Bu 2 firmanın doğal olarak kendi konularında tabii ki geliştirmeler yapmaları gerekir. Tabii ki daha yaptıklarını daha iyi, daha doğru, daha çabuk, daha süratli, daha verimli, daha ucuz. Çin'den müthiş bir rekabet geliyor. Ona karşı direnebilmemiz lazım. Bütün bunları yapıyoruz. Yaptığımız için de zaten ayakta durabiliyoruz ve belirli bir yerlere gidebiliyoruz. Ama bu bize yetmiyor. Yani çok basit bir örnek vereceğim. Bir tavuk çiftliğinin basit bir işte havalandırma sistemini bizden istedikleri zaman o tavuk çiftliğini gördüğünüz takdirde tavuk yemekten vazgeçmeye kalkıyorsunuz. Ve o atıkların ne yapıldığını gördüğünüz zaman daha bir kafanız karışmaya başlıyor. Bugün burada yok Kels'deki arkadaşım John McKeown. O da aynı şekilde, o da birçok konularda rahatsız. Mesela bana anlattığı şeyler var. Bir günde Londra'da üretilen sandviçin %65'i atılıyor. 35'i yeniyor, gerisi atılıyor. Ve bu tabii ki çöp oluyor ve hiçbir işe yaramıyor maalesef. Türkiye'de de aynı durum geçerli. Biz bu konulara kafayı taktığımız için biraz da herhalde başka konulara saptık. Daha önceden biz UMDE olarak katı atıklar üzerinde çalışıyorduk. Bir baktık ki Kels'de ıslak atıklar üzerinde çalışıyor. Ve bu konuda beraber bir çalışmaya başladık. Şimdi bakarsanız tabii ki hani hiç alakası yok bunların bizimle. Yani normal yaptığımız işlerle, günlük yaşantımızla bir mesela atıktan elektrik üretmek. Yani atıkları biz yok etmek çok kolay. Yok edersiniz, yakarsınız, berbat edersiniz ama o da bir enerji harcıyorsunuz. Halbuki marifet o atığı yok ederken aynı zamanda bir de karşılığında bir şey kazanmak. Biz beraber olarak işte atık, bugün mesela çok basit bir örnek vereyim. Bir kamyonun egzoz sıcaklığı 500 derece ve biz onu atıyoruz dışarı. Atmosfere gidiyor. İşte bu işte karbon emisyonu dediğimiz problemler oluşuyor. Halbuki bir Stirling motoru takabilsek bir kamyonun egzosuna oradan da elektrik üretebileceğiz. Biz bunlara kafa taktık. Bundan da keyif duyuyoruz. Mesela bir barbekü yaptığınız zaman bilirsiniz. Hani bir kömürü yakarken eğer bir tane bir boru koyarsanız çok daha kolay yanar. Neden? Bir hava akımı oluşur. Biz dedik, şu en sağdaki şeyde onu gösteriyor. Eğer ben aşağıda biraz sıcak bir hava verebilirsem, havayı biraz ısıtabilirsem, bu akım çok daha hızlanabilir. Ben ondan elektrik üretebilirim. Biz bunlar üzerinde çalışıyoruz. Ama bu da yetmiyor. Mesela sadece İstanbul'un değerlerini söyleyeyim size. günde 2,5 milyon metreküp su tüketiyoruz. Ben İstanbul'dan geliyorum. Ve o suyu arıtıyoruz, kanalizasyon sularımızı arıtıyoruz ve tekrar denizlere atıyoruz. Geri kullanma şansımız yok. Ve her geçen gün kullandığımız sular azalmaya başlıyor. Biz onun için böyle bir çalışmalara giriştik. Atık suları, sanayi sularını, evsel atık sularını, belediyelerin kanalizasyon sularını temizleyerek çok süratli bir şekilde, mesela burada görüyorsunuz 8 dakikada biz suyu temizleyebiliyoruz ve içilebilecek hale geliyor. Ama tabii içmesi herhalde doğru değil, ama o suları biz tarımda kullanabiliriz, sanayide kullanabiliriz. Böylece tarımın, sanayinin tükettiği suları insanların kullanımına bırakabiliriz. Bütün bunlar bir innovation dediğimiz gelişim, girişim, arayış, bir daima daha iyiye doğru girişim bir parçası. Ama bizim şu anda en çok üzerinde durduğumuz projemiz, bu KELS'le birlikte yaptığımız projelerimiz arasında en önde geleni, bu atıkların bir şekilde bertaraf edilmesi, yok edilmesi ve karşılığında bir şey üretilmesi. Bundan sonrasını pek fazla kafanızı ağrıtmak istemiyorum ama şu önemli, yani atıklar bir baş belası değil, bir nimet haline gelebilir eğer aklımızı kullanırsak, eğer doğru yaparsak. Ben bugün şeyi görüyorum, mesela işte Düzce'de, Bolu'da, birçok yerde tavuk çiftlikleri var. Çok kafayı taktım, kusura bakmayın, ama tavuk atıklarında korkunç kötü bir kokusu var maalesef. Tarlalara atıyorlar. Çünkü başka çareleri yok. Onun için bunların toplanıp mutlaka yok edilmesi lazım. Aynı zamanda İstanbul'da, Ankara'da, bütün büyük şehirlerimizde haller var. Ve bu hallerin her gün akşam atıkları var. Satılmamış, çürümüş, biraz düşmüş, biraz eğri büğrü. Ve bunlar hep atılıyor. Ve atıldığı zaman da mutlaka bir yerleri kirletiyor. Şimdi biraz evvel hastanelerdeki havanın sterilizasyonunu dinlediniz. Ben şunu söyleyeyim, bu atıklar tarlalara atılıyor. Yani oralara buralara atılıyor. Yağmurlarla yeraltı sularına geçiyorlar. Ve yeraltı sularıyla da bizim tekrar içeceğimiz suyu kontamine ediyorlar. Benim yani en büyük sıkıntım burada. Bu nedenle de biz bütün bu atıklar üzerinde çalışıyoruz ve maalesef ikiye ayırmak lazım. Kuru olanlar başka bir teknolojiyle bertaraf edilecek, ıslak olanlar başka bir teknolojiyle. Çünkü ıslak olanların çok yüksek sıcaklıklarda gazlaştırılması çok pahalı ve zor bir şey. Onun için de biz iki ayrı yola girdik. Birinci yol, bu KELS'le birlikte yaptığımız, bu atıkları bir yerde topluyoruz ve bunları basit bir fermentasyon teknolojisiyle bir gübre iyileştirici, toprak iyileştirici ürün haline getiriyoruz. Kokusu yok, şeyi yok, herhangi bir tamamen biyolojik, kimyasal herhangi bir katkısı yok içerisinde. Uzun uzun başınızı ağrıtmayacağım ama çok basit. Yani küçücük tesislerle, böyle 100 bin, 200 bin metreküplük şeyler değil, 5-10 metreküplük küçük kaplarda halledilebilecek bir şey bu. Kurularda ise biraz daha tabii kuru atıklar dediğimiz zaman işte biraz evvel bahsettiğim tavuk atıkları, hasat atıkları, işte saplar, samanlar, dallar, yapraklar, ormanların dibinden toplanacak her şey, hepsi atık bunların ve hepsi yeşil bir enerji, yeşil bir elektrik üretiminde kullanılabilecek şeyler. Bunları kısa geçeceğim ama netice itibariyle eğer biz becerip bunlardan bir şekilde enerji üretebilirsek, çok çeşitli yolları var hepsinin. Sadece memleketlerimizi değil, dünyayı kurtarabiliriz. Çünkü burada sonunda yine bizim yaşadığımız yer, bizim sularımız, biz kirletiyoruz sularımızı. Hiç olmazsa bunları tekrar geri kazanmamız lazım. Topraklar bizim topraklarımız. Onları ne kadar az kirletirsek bundan sonraki nesillerimiz hiç olmazsa ne halt etmiş bizden evvelkiler demeyecekler. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Zia, thank you very much for that presentation. And I think it's pretty encouraging. We probably all agree that industrialization has messed up the planet a little bit for us, but it's good to see that innovation may just be able to clean it up again. So thank you very much for that. Well, last but not least, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Mark Marion of Combilift. Now, Combilift, a company that was established in 1998 with the aim of providing a solution for safe, space-saving handling of long and awkward loads. It's an industry that engineering companies have been working in for a long time to solve these problems. But I think the Combilift approach, again, shows innovation, how you can take a very fresh look at an old problem. So, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Mark Marion, and I'm Combilift's responsible for the Euro-Asian market. I have 34 years of experience and expertise in the field of material handling. First, I would like to give a short introduction into the world of material handling. There are many fields of material handling, but Combilift is especially active in manufacturing forklifts that can handle long loads. There are more than 150 brands worldwide of forklifts, and most of them manufacture simple and traditional frontal forklifts. A lot of these trucks are coming from China, but also Turkey has their own forklift industry with brands like Sanko and Çukurova. The strategy of the owners of Combilift has always been to look for gaps or special niche products in the material handling market. By listening to our customers, we find and identify those gaps or products. I will give you some examples of products that Combilift has developed the last 15 years. Our first success story is about the Combilift multi-directional four-way forklift. Let me first describe the material handling problem. Small loads are put on pallets, and they are always handled by traditional forklifts. See the picture on the left side. Longer loads with lengths starting from 4 meters are much more difficult to handle by traditional forklifts, as those trucks can only drive in frontal and rear mode. However, there are side loader forklifts on the market to handle long loads, but they all have serious restrictions, like, for example, they only move lengthwise in 2 directions, or often they have very, very small wheels and they can't drive outside. In '98, the idea of the Combilift is born. 2 brilliant Irish gentlemen, Marty McVicker and Robert Moffat, both engineers, developed the idea of the multi-directional four-way forklift. These diesel and gas trucks can drive in frontal direction to handle pallets, but they also can drive in lateral mode to handle long loads in small aisles. We have a small video now. Can we activate that video? It's not activated. Okay. I resume. So the combi lift can drive in frontal mode. He can drive in lateral mode. He can do a turning maneuver of 360 degrees. He can load lorries. He can drive through very small doors with long loads. The combi lift can stock the goods in a rack system in narrow aisles. The combi lift can also handle pallets. This all results in many advantages, like with the combi lift truck, you can easily gain 30% of extra warehouse space. And one truck can do the job of a traditional frontal forklift and one side loader. You also need only one operator, and there is maximum safety. The following picture shows or is an example of a completely reorganized warehouse. Suaderolu Aluminium in Istanbul bought their first combi lift in 2003. Today, about 14 combi lifts are operational in their warehouses. By optimizing the warehouse space and reducing the aisle widths, by stacking higher, working faster but safer, within a good organized structure, results in many benefits. Here you have some extra examples of combi lift material handling applications. You see a truck in the sandwich panel industry. Another truck in the middle is handling metal constructions. We have trucks in the pipe industry, both metal pipes and PVC pipes. And we have a lot of trucks that are working in the aluminum and PVC extruder industry. In 2008, Comblift presented the world's first traditional forklift that can drive in 4 directions, the CB truck. And we took an international patent on this truck concept. Meanwhile, Comblift created new series of trucks like side loaders, narrow aisle trucks, and straddle carriers. As our world is growing every day, spaces become rare and expensive to live as well as to store. This has become a major problem, especially in big cities. And for that reason, many logistic companies are looking for narrow aisle forklifts. Around 2002, the Aisle-Master narrow aisle truck joined the Comblift product range. The Aisle-Master truck can work in aisles of only 2 meters, and it can store the product up to a lift height of 15 meters. Once the customer makes a choice for an Aisle-Master, the capacity of his warehouse will go up with 35%. Aisle-Master has worldwide many references. Among our customers in Turkey are, for example, Bayer in Istanbul and Hakan Plastic in Çerkezköy. Another project that has been very successful is the straddle carrier. With straddle carrier, we are targeting the huge and international market of containers. You can easily find big capacity forklifts in every port, but outside the port, this becomes a problem. It's very difficult to find forklifts that can handle loads or heavy containers with weights up to 30 tons. Comlift straddle carriers can handle each type of container. And they can drive inside and outside of the warehouse. This perfect solution costs 50% less than a heavy capacity port forklift. We found many more applications for straddle carrier, like metal pipe handling, metal construction handling, modular homes, and transformator handling. A customer here in Ankara that's using a straddle carrier is Precon's Modular Constructions. Another Comlift application is the RT truck for live poultry transport. The high-speed RT rough terrain three-wheel Comlift handles poultry containers very smoothly. All operations have to be done in order to limit cause of stress to the poultry in order to secure the quality. At Comlift, we support our customers. We support them with free warehouse layouts that show the customer the extra potential, for example, of the warehouse space. Then some company facts and figures. Comlift is based in the Republic of Ireland. We employ 350 people. Our turnover is 145 million. And every year we invest 9% of our turnover in research and development. We export for 99%. Our growth rate per year is 15%, and we are an ISO 9001 certified company. Also, this is very interesting. It's about the history of Comlift sales. In the beginning, in '98, we manufactured 18 trucks. Yearly, we have a market growth about more or less 15%. In 2009, due to the global bank crisis, forklift market went down 80%. However, Comlift had a fallback of only 25%. This year, we will have manufactured about 23,000 trucks. On the world rating list of forklift manufacturers, Comlift holds a 13th place. Since all other forklift companies make traditional forklifts, Comlift is #1 in customized forklift manufacturing. And Comlift is a real winner company. In 2011, 2012 and 2013, we got the award for innovation from the International Forklift Association. So, what are our keys of success? The secret to our success. We are looking for gaps in the market. We are investing in research and innovation. 9% each year. We are working together with our customers, but we are also listening to our customers. And we are, of course, looking for customized solutions. And combined, this makes the best solution for each individual customer. I would like to thank you for your attention.
Mark, thank you very much for that. Again, innovation applied in an industry that you would have thought, you couldn't apply any more innovation to. I particularly liked when you said, a customer buys an aisle-master. They don't buy an aisle-master. They don't buy a forklift. They buy 35% extra capacity in their warehouse. I think that's really where the impact occurs. I'd just like to ask you, actually, Mark, one question. Since we've been coming to Turkey, we've noticed that, particularly in the area of engineering, there are a lot of very, very great companies here. The quality of engineering and innovation within engineering in Turkey is world class. So how can a company like Combilift be successful here? What do you have that's unique?
What makes Combilift especially unique? Apologize. What makes Combilift especially unique is that every forklift that we built.
Try this.
Okay.
Good idea.
Apologize. What makes Combilift unique is the following. Every forklift that we are building is a project on its own. And that makes really the difference. If you compare this with other forklifts, it's all, let's say, these people are all building the same truck every time again. At Combilift, each truck is a project on its own.
Okay. So again, that actually fits very well with the comment that you made in your presentation, that in consultation with the customer, you then decide on what innovation is required. So, and then you're willing to customize that innovation. Thanks. If I could actually move, if I could move back to Zia for a moment. Zia, again, your presentation was very good, and one thing you have in common with John McKeown, the CEO of Kells, your partner company in this, is that you both share this real belief in what you're doing and this great enthusiasm for the technologies you're developing. But what I'd like to ask you is, what's special about dealing with, or maybe what challenges do you have in dealing with a company that's, that's from Europe, from Northern Europe? Have you found any great benefits in going relatively far away from your own market to look for this collaboration?
No, I mean, but it's because they have different problems, they have different rules, and we thought that we could put them together and come up with more intelligent solutions, but we have the same problems.
The same problems.
It turns out that, I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, whenever you are doing something new, one of the speakers just told a few hours ago, everybody's against you. Everybody's trying to stop you from doing it. And John had the same problem in Ireland. They could not build a pilot plant to test their technology. And we couldn't do the same thing here in Turkey. So what we are doing now is we are going under the umbrella of some other manufacturing company and asking them to give us some space, and we will pay for it. And we promise we will not make any bad smell and we will not create any problems. So these, but in any case, if you want to do something, in the end you do it. And John and I have this thing in common. And of course, he comes with different ideas, and because of his background, of his, and so I think when we put ourselves and our companies together into a mold, something better has always come up. This I can really say for sure.
That's a very positive message, and in fact, that's one of the key messages and one of the key reasons that that Minister Jed Nash is leading a trade mission this week into Turkey to see if we can find more opportunities for collaborations like that. Would you say that apart from the advantages that you get in terms of developing new products, is there also a market advantage in terms of market expansion, maybe into markets that are more comfortable for you and others that are more comfortable?
Sure. Of course. I mean, now we are trying to put this technology into action in Turkey. But just 3 weeks ago, some company in England, they have some problems, and they found us because of our other relations. And I think maybe our first plant could be in England.
Okay, okay, that's very positive.
Unusual, but it helps. I mean, in Turkish we say one hand cannot do anything, but two hands make a clapping sound. So this is the way it works, really. Okay,
thank you. Actually, Tony, if I could go back to you for a moment. One of the things that strikes me was Daon is a very experienced company at this stage, and world-leading technologies. But I know the company was founded about 97, 98, I think. At which time the technologies you were looking at were very, very new, and I would imagine that the market was not as developed or anything like developed as it is today. Did you find yourself in a situation where you almost had to create the demand as well as the solution?
Yeah, that's true. We were actually established in 2000, and we're very comfortable on the technology and the capabilities and that. I would say that perhaps the greatest challenge that we experienced in the first 5-6 years was dealing with an emerging market. So we effectively had to not just develop the technology, but we evangelized significantly across the world to help create the market. So it's definitely not for the faint-hearted. What it does give you is a competitive strength in terms of the quality of relationships that you would build up by engaging with end customers across the world as you evangelize your message.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm aware of the late hour, and I just really have one other question that I'd like to ask the panel. And I'm sure it's a question that's occurred to a lot of us, Kieran, during your presentation. You mentioned a lot of really scary viruses and bacteria and stuff that your solution can address. And I, for one, will never look at plasma in the same way. But the one big question I suppose I'd like to ask you is the particular infection that is now dominating our headlines across the world, Ebola. I'm sure that everybody asks you this question, but if I could just ask you, in terms of Novaris, is this a solution for Ebola?
Ebola. Ebola. The E word. Can you hear me? Yeah. It's clearly a very sensitive subject, so I have to, I guess, choose my words reasonably carefully. But there is a strong body of opinion now emerging, particularly in the United States, which points very, I'm trying to be quite careful as to what I say, points quite clearly to there being a significant, to there being significant indicators that Ebola can also be in the air. Now, I didn't use the word airborne because airborne has a specific meaning inside infection control. It tends to apply to diseases such as influenza or tuberculosis. But there is a significant body of opinion inside the senior American healthcare elite that says Ebola can also get into the air. And it gets into the air via the same mechanism that, for example, influenza does. You cough, you emit fluids, and that's a particular danger with, in the end stage of Ebola, the body can emit up to 10 liters of fluid, which is a dreadful thought. But the viral particles are in this fluid. The fluid dries, it desiccates, and as it desiccates, the viral particles can become airborne. It's not a pleasant subject. The act, for example, of flushing a toilet, which happens with an Ebola patient as well, can put a plume of viral particles up to 3 meters into the air. And once they're in the air, they tend to stay in the air. So I'm not a virologist. I'm just saying there is a strong body of opinion which says that Ebola, like other viruses, can and does become airborne. Once it's in the air, plasma can destroy it because paradoxically, viruses in the air are a lot more vulnerable than on surfaces. We have proven against all classes of viruses, if Ebola is in the air, and a lot of people believe it is, the presence of our machines there will undoubtedly provide an extra level of security and protection for staff and patients. I've tried to say that as neutrally as possible. That's what we believe.
One single comment, please.
Yes.
Before you flush the toilet, close the cover.
Okay, that's a good.
It does, but no, that actually
Helps a lot.
You then get an even stronger jet coming in around the rim. It doesn't actually. Anyway.
Okay, but no, Kieran, thanks very much for that answer. Sorry for putting you on the spot there, but I do think it's and I think that obviously any weapon we have that helps us in the fight with Ebola is obviously a very positive move. And on that note, I think it's probably time for us to wrap. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the companies and on behalf of Enterprise Ireland for the opportunity to present to you this afternoon. I hope that the examples here will spur other people on to see the opportunities that are available with partnering with Irish companies. And I think that, as my very eloquent colleague mentioned, one hand can do nothing and two hands can clap. So I think I'll go and leave the session today with that thought. So thank you very much.